So it's similar to how if I give you a very good example, when a baby is born, okay, and then at that moment, when the baby is born, you see the brain, the neurology or the neurons, or you can say the nerves which are there in the brain, it starts building, right? So every action you do or everything that you do, there is like a circuit inside your brain which is learned a lot of things. So as the human brain involves, there are a lot of connections which happens in the brain itself. There are so much of like wiring and so much of things which are happening. Same at the same thing, you see, if you see deep learning, if you must have seen neural networks, it goes with the same concept. So there are like different terms and different weights and different biases which are there, which handles a neural network. So there are many types of neural networks as well. So which is like recurring neural network and then GAN. There are a lot of neural networks, but to learn an AI, I think you should be familiar with deep learning as well, because it's a concept of uh, more like to train a AI model, you need, first of all, you need a lot of data for it to gather to it. Yesterday, I was just reading about this news that ChatGPT is going to run out of data in next 2 years. It was speculated that it's going to run out of data. Recently, they just ran their model, or you can say that they fine-tuned their model with the YouTube transcript, and it has been trained on that as well. So key components, if I'll talk about, is something which is like I would recommend for people who have been joining AI that you should know Python very well. You should be well versed with Python, and there are many libraries like TensorFlow, then Keras. These are the, I think TensorFlow, excuse me for that. Keras is more like research-oriented programming language, but Keras is built. TensorFlow is built on top of Keras, which makes Keras a more simpler and easier for that. So you can build a model with the scratch with this language. So as answered, I think Python is something which is very important. You should have knowledge about basic neural networks, and then we should have more information, or you should be well versed with the libraries like TensorFlow and Keras.
Yeah. I was asking Austin. So what are the emerging trends or advancement in AI that you should be aware of?
Advancement. So the history of evolution.
Sorry, I meant to ask Austin.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry for that.
Okay. You can hear me? Mark, am I audible? Yes, you are.
Yeah, so the current trends we are seeing, we call them decoder models, what is currently most very popular, large language models. So we have seen Google, we have seen Microsoft, we have seen essentially the giant, the big tech is coming up with various kinds of models and training them. They have become the new thing, especially the large language models. So your Copilot, your Bard, your Gemini, your ChatGPT. And the thing that is coming out clear with all of them is the need for automation. You had an NVIDIA CEO saying that right now you don't need to be a software engineer, you need to be a prompt engineer. So again, just trying to market the idea of GPUs, because in the last 10 years, we moved away from we moved to the cloud, but we are seeing this year, everyone going back to getting data centers and investing a lot in GPUs. So just processing. So right now, this year, I am very certain that even the stock price of NVIDIA, we saw what happened to it. Right now, NVIDIA stock price has shot up because everyone has this crave of building these models. And the biggest issue with these models is they take a lot of processing power. So everyone's trying to automate. We are seeing versions like Devin. Devin right now is an automated software engineer. So for example, Mark, you might want to hire 10 software engineers, but with Devin, you might need only one because he's doing everything. Now, we look at things in healthcare. We are moving away from, although healthcare is always a very sensitive place, because how do we give AI or ensure that AI gives us the right information. You've seen the problems with WebMD. So we are moving in a way where automation is the new thing. Everyone wants information fast. We are humanizing everything. And this year, without a fear of doubt, it is about automation, large language models. And the big question is, how do we make it as accessible as we can make it to the normal human being? You think because essentially the problem is always the size of the model, but also the training data set. So most companies are realizing that you can have a very big model that's working in AI, but what's also very important is the size of the training model. So that's the key thing. So most companies will do iterations. Even Facebook with Llama, they're trying to do iterations, seeing how to make the model more optimized. But especially that's the issue right now in AI and the trend.
Thank you so much. There are so many big terms you use. I think audience will be able to, get a few of them. I know you talked about NVIDIA. I'm not sure whether people know NVIDIA. I live in a place where NVIDIA is just some few hours away from me. So for our audience, you may be able to understand what NVIDIA is. They are tech company owned by, it's Japanese or Chinese, who moved here to US, and then they make more chips, and they're most passionate about AI. I mean, all the companies. You talked about prompt engineering. That's a very upcoming career that anyone would want to pursue if you have interest in this. And again, like I said, AI is coming. It's affecting the world like never before, like nothing else has ever done that in the history of mankind. So, you got no choice. Either you're out or in. Be work with us. And that takes me to the next question. And the next question goes to Gabriel. Gabriel, what are some of the real world applications of AI that we encounter in our daily lives?
Wow. Okay. I think real world applications of AI I think they are ubiquitous, meaning that they are everywhere, if I may call it. And some of these examples, we normally use them on a daily basis. I know most of us who use what we call the virtual assistants, like Siri and Alexa's, and of course, Google Assistant as well. These are models that understand and respond to voice commands, and they are widely used. If you happen to go to a new city or a new town where you cannot be able to navigate around the mobile, the road network, you're able to be assisted by the Google Assistant, and it is even able to understand a different ecological condition, of course, in terms of the map area. The other thing is about social media algorithm that is mostly or widely used to analyze user interactions, and of course what we call content, and as well as the news feed. So you may find like today you had searched on the Google, maybe you want to purchase a laptop, and this laptop is maybe of a model called maybe HP or Dell or something. So whenever you log into social media platform like Facebook, you see ads popping up. And these are ads of a particular item that you had searched on the Google. So that's why now the social media algorithm comes in place. Nowadays, we have experienced the evolvement of the technology in terms of autonomous vehicles. Tesla is really doing good, actually. And these autonomous vehicles utilize AI to navigate roads, of course, detect obstacles as well, and of course, make decisions when it comes to driving as well. So you'll find that AI is everywhere. We are using it everywhere. In terms of health sector, I would like to say it is now widely used to what we call analyze or to provide predictive analysis for disease prevention as well. We have personalized treatment when it comes to recommendations, and also, of course, medical diagnosis systems that are widely used to help doctors and medical practitioners to treat diseases when it comes to different hospitals. The other thing, and I remember this, I used this during my thesis. We used to model what we call infectious diseases. And one of the diseases that we are predicting is the pandemic that just happened the other day, the COVID-19. So we could be able to develop models that can predict what we call the scale to which this disease can be able to affect the human population. And you'll find that when you simulate such kind of a model, of course, with enough data, you're able to predict how much how much will be the effect of such pandemic if it comes later in future. And you, of course, you're able to bring into aspect what we call interventions, like the one that we experience, like maybe quarantine, restriction of movement and all that, wearing of mask as well. So AI is widely used in different aspects. When it comes to business, let's say in the business sector, you'll find that most banking sectors, they have what we call head-to-head predictive model, where they can be able to leverage on who comes to apply loans, which may be profession likes to apply loans, maybe for a particular reason or something. And out of that, this banking sector, they are able to maximize or to leverage their marketing sector, and they're able to know, okay, which area are we supposed to sensitize much because we don't have much many customers, and which areas do we need to, of course, to lower our cost of marketing when it comes to finances. So we can see AI being utilized in various aspects, and of course, it is evolving on a daily basis. We can say it is scalable even to the future. So that is it.
Thank you very much. I tell people that AI is used every day. Where I live is that you have to check weather almost every day to know what you're going to put on. By doing that, there must be some models and predictions and all that tells you today it's gonna rain, it's gonna, it's gonna be a warm day and all that. So in our daily life, decisions we're making right now, and I believe how you sit, how you're going to sleep, how you're going to walk, how you're going to wake up, all will be affected by AI and technology, whether you like it or not. Today, people use different things. Like if you are to be comfortable, what do you need? If you want to wake up after 5 minutes, all those things, they're affected by AI and technology. That takes me to the next question for Shabam. Shabam, can you discuss some of the potential impacts of AI on society and economy in the coming years?
Oh, so like currently me being in the market right now, it has been always there has been always a wave of fear of what's going to happen. Is it going to take the human jobs, or is it going to be something which is like, oh, you got to worry about, or you got to learn data science or AI in this field, or should be you trying to learn data science or machine learning in this field right now? So I would say that AI will be emerging as a kind of an helpful tool for the human beings. So it was discovered, as you can see, ChatGPT is an open source, or you can say publicly available thing, which makes, or which was opened, or which was being funded with the term that it has been in the market to help, or to make humans task more easier. So as there was a boom earlier as well, I think it was somewhere around like 1990s or 2000s when computer came in and people were just worried about is it going to take human jobs. So that's what the thing is. So when you see a new technology emerging, it's always going to work with the humans and not against the humans. So there might be, it will go hands in hands with humans as well. So there might be potential. So as somebody mentioned, is that there's going to be prompt engineering, which is going to be coming up. So there was in software which was just recently or just launched, which is called as Devon AI, which is act as a front end and the back end developer. So what is going to happen right now is like, no, it's not going to take human jobs, and it's not going to be a fear of, that something is going to happen, that, oh no, we're going to lose a job. No. So once you have something, as I said earlier, when there was computers which came in, it created more jobs. So obviously AI is going to come in and it's going to create more jobs. And I would say the earlier it was little. So like, for example, just consider that we're going to make an app for Sevenett, right? So there were different divisions which used to come in, and then there was different departments. Okay, the HR will meet and then talk about the employees. The front end developers will come and then talk about the application. Back end developers is something gonna work on SQL and a lot of things. So AI is something which will create an impact, and it will just reduce the human effort as well, and it's going to reduce the time. So now you can see more and more jobs will be coming up in AI. So I think so. ChatGPT has just opened a market for everyone, and I think Gemini has just launched a model or their recent algorithm, which was 1.5, which is available for everyone. So, what does this make, or what does this is gonna impact us? Is like for you, you don't have to learn everything from scratch. As you can see, like AI can help you to make an application as well, and AI can make you do a lot of things as well. So, just how we see the future is, it's that it's going to make more simpler for us, it's going to make it more impactful for us, and it's going to always help you in each and every way. So there might be currently, I think so, on if you go and search on LinkedIn, there are many jobs which are available, if just as like AI prompt engineer or artificial engineering. uh, Also we have something which is called as which is like more fine tuning. So right now it's little competitive because they are more expecting experienced people in this field. The thing is, just as said, Perplexity. Have you heard about Perplexity? It works on ChatGPT. So there are many tech giants which are coming in and trying to use the models which are already there. So yeah, I would say it's a kind of easy human, or you can say a companion that you can have, that you can develop an app, or you have any business idea. It's just easy for you to search it on Google. Earlier it was not difficult. Earlier it was difficult, where you had to go and search on Google on what you have to make exactly, or what you have to know. But now you have large language LLM models with you. You just gotta enter your command on it, and then you have your application ready to just go and deploy it. So it's going to be as easier, and it's going to be helping human a lot ahead.
Thank you. You for that explanation. You mentioned you use some terms. I know probably somebody wondering. You talk about Gemini. You talk about LLM. Probably you may take a second just to say what they are, so that our audience can be able to get that.
Yes. So basically, you guys must have heard about OpenAI, right? So it's a open public forum, and it's a open platform which is there right now. So there are tech giants, many tech giants. It's not easy for us right now that we can, open a data center, because just to train a normal neural network. So what generally happens is, when you train any algorithm, just for example, you can take any algorithm, or you can say a neural network. You just feed an image, you just give it the data that it wants, specifically fine tune on what you want. So just for example, I take two images, I say cats and dogs, I give 3,000, 4,000 images to the neural network on different angle, different augmentation that give them, and then train that model. And that training is going to take a lot of time, because it's a GPU computation which is going to happen. It's not going to CPU computation which is going to happen. So what basically I mean is, to train anything, you just had to have a lot of data. You got to train the data, or you got to train the algorithm on that, and then you're going to get the results on that. So once I train my model, I'm gonna fine tune it and just make it more specific. Just for example, as I said, that if I give 3,000 to 4,000 images to a network, or say an algorithm, or say neural network, I train it. It will be easily able to classify between a cat and a dog.
Okay, thank you. That gives me another reason to go to Austin. Austin, so what are the challenges and the limitations that AI face currently, and how these challenges can be addressed?
Okay, now the key thing, I think Shaban has talked about it. What most people fear is that AI will replace human beings, not necessarily. AI will probably replace whoever does not know how to use AI. That's the person who's going to be replaced. So it's not about replacing the human beings, about replacing the person who is not able to keep up with AI. Now, AI has a lot of limitations. So you'd find when we're building these models, we always try, depending on what kind of model you're building, there's always a level of accuracy, or a level that your model should meet. So most people would go for maybe 70 and above, 86 and above. So you expect a certain rate of accuracy from this model. So that's why you'll see these models giving a disclaimer that it may not be accurate about some things. ChatGPT does that a lot. So the main problem that they have is sometimes they hallucinate. If you looked at OpenAI in the beginning, the initial opening was called GPT-3. So GPT-3 had a lot of challenges, and you can still access GPT-3 in their OpenAI playground. And hallucinating is one of them. The other thing is they're not accurate. So there are some things you'll find they're not accurate. even ChatGPT 3.5, there's sometimes even basic calculations it could do. If you're not really accurate, if you're not really careful, you're not really looking at it, you would see it's not giving you the right answer. And the other thing, again, is not being able to be sentient. Now, when we say sentient, is how do we give AI this human feel? Like Mark, right now, you can decide I want pizza, but just 10 minutes, you decide I don't want pizza anymore. I want to get maybe go and make ugali, for example. So AI is not really at that level yet. So how do we make it? So that's why you hear people trying to make it more human. How can we make it to be able to be accurate and tell human feelings, essentially giving it feelings, just to make it simple for the audience. How do we give AI feelings? Because that's the biggest issue we have with some of these models. Somebody has seen something about hallucination. Just think about when you mean hallucinations, like you could tell it, do this, it gives you something absolutely different. So that's what we mean by hallucination in some of these models. So the biggest challenge is AI is how do we make it more accurate? So engineers and developers are always trying to make it better. And that's when I said that you can create any model, but the challenge is the training data of the model. Now, we go to the backend, for example, say, do this, do this, do this, do this. However, there's a stage we need to take human beings and then tell them, let's rank all of these answers. So which answer do you think is the most accurate? That's why you will not find, if you go to ChatGPT and ask it, give me the symptoms of malaria, for example, or symptoms of being pregnant. It's really risky because of laws and everything. Because symptoms of malaria, some might be similar to the ones of pregnancy and so on and so forth. So where's that thin line and how do you humanize it? So for me, that's the basic challenge and limitation. The other one is the price of some of these models. So most of them have a free offering, but majority of them at the end of the day, it's a business they want to monetize, so they're trying to. Some people may not be able to access. For example, ChatGPT, you can GPT-4, the minimum is like 20 USD, and you can access even the one for group. They've released a group one right now. So they're trying to make more offerings because GPT-4, there's DALL-E, and DALL-E is for images mostly, and there's one, I just keep forgetting the name, for videos, which is really popular. It can even create a small film within a few minutes. So that's the main challenge. And then spotting these deepfakes, because that's the other issue that's coming up with AI. Nowadays, how do you tell that this video is a deepfake? How do you tell that this is an image which is generated? Right now, I can tell you without a fear of contradiction. On Instagram, we have accounts that are verified, but they're bots, and they have like 50 million followers. How does the normal human being come and say, this user does not exist, these tweets don't look human, they're all generated? So there's that issue with AI. We have seen TikTok as well trying to label some of those posts. These ones are generated by AI. But essentially, that's some of the challenges that are coming up with AI.
Okay, thank you so much. I also wanted to explain what a model is, because people see that you talk about models, you can train them, you can ask them to do this. What's a model in a simple term, just for a second. As you do that, you also, somebody has a question asking you, what advice would you give parents trying to calculate the culture of AI in the children, academic and growth? This one is simple. I will tell you this, as Sevenett, we offer training coding classes for kids. So I would say that we're exposing. Today, look at the world, the richest man today is Elon Musk in tech. About 10 people in the top 10 richest men or people in the world, except one person from France, the rest are in tech. Large number of them did not get a college degree to be what they are. Starting with Bill Gates, he dropped out of school because he knew he was exposed to these things when he was 5 years old. And that's exactly what we're doing. Mark Zuckerberg did not have to finish college. He was coding these things when he was young. By the time he was in college, he had to drop out of college because that was the priority at that time. I can go on and on talk about Ellison page of Google. The people were exposed to technology as early as 5 years. So that's exactly what I'm telling you. This free podcast that we are making right now, plus so many free resources that are available, could be a starting point. So you don't have to wait until you're 18. some of us, were never lucky enough to get these opportunities. But right now, if you have a chance to expose our children right now to this, please do. So Austin, just a minute, for a minute, just explain what's our models.
Models, in the most simple way I would say is, it just like, it's a mathematical representation of what a real world scenario would look like. Now, any scenario that we want to use, you say, for example, you're telling ChatGPT, for example, write for me a sick note for me to tell my boss I'm not coming into the office tomorrow. Now, you're telling it that I had this information and it will probably generate something like, dear so and so, I'm writing for you because I'm not feeling well, I'm not coming, regards. So that's just that short message. A model is just a representation of a real world life scenario. So in AI, a model goes through two phases. We have a training and we have a testing. Now, training is now we're telling ChatGPT, this is how you answer the question of someone telling you I'm sick. This is how you answer. This is how you answer. We're training it. Then we test it by looking at how many times do people consider this to be the accurate one. So it will probably give for you like 9 answers. If you prompt it every single time, it will change. So we test it until it becomes accurate. So testing, that's the iteration. So we are calling it models because in AI, we probably deal with somebody trying to come up with a real world scenario and try to automate it by using that representation of that mathematical representation, which is the model. I don't know if I'm simple or confused.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So model is a representation. It's this software that is, coded to represent a real world. You could even represent me in form of a model. Me having hands, being able to walk, and that's where the robotics come in. So it's just a representation, just like writing code to represent a real world object or scenario. Macharia, I have a question for you. So how can individual without technical background learn about AI and applications?
Yes, I think when it comes to beginners and more important people who are interested to learn AI, I think one of the best and easiest way to access this information is through online courses and tutorials. We have platforms like Coursera, Udacity, Udemy, and all that. And these platforms are, of course, training of data science and AI fundamentals, and of course, any application. So if you can start with us as Sevenett, we are able to bring you into speed when it comes to fundamentals, be able to understand what is AI, what are the applications in the real world that we have right now and all that, and even have a chance to even do projects that are AI driven in terms of training of data and so forth. The other aspect that we can leverage on is what we call books and articles that has already been written for non-technical audiences. And these books provide what we call insight into AI concepts and of course into the application of the real world. The other platform that non-technical, anybody who is a beginner can be able to leverage on is workshop and seminars. And of course, podcasts like this one that we are having today. You can be able to learn invaluable insights and of course have opportunity to learn from experts who have already mastered these skills in the field. We also have what we call hands-on projects. This, of course, involve participation of any occasions, let's say things like hackathons. We have been having hackathons, which of course focus on AI. And these hackathons can help individuals, gain practical experiences in a deeper way, and of course understand the AI concept. Last but not the least, we have a platform like Cargo, which offers open source data and project models where you can be able to even choose one, learn from it, train yourself, it, and of course to the proficient level. So if we can have areas like the one I've mentioned, where we have Sevenett, that's a platform that offers courses online, books, of course, and publications that we already have. And these are beginner friendlies as well. Workshops and seminars. Try to participate when you have webinars, on seminars or on AI. Please be able to join and tune in and be able to learn from those experts in one way or the other.
Thank you. And that takes us to the next question, which is to Shaba. So we have people who are non-technical. Gabriel just explained how they can be able to get started. And then we have people who already aspire and they want to deepen their understanding. So what are the resources and tools that somebody like that would use to utilize that deepen or to deepen their understanding of AI and related domain?
Okay, yeah. So for somebody who's been, I think so, there was the other day conference which was going on, and then the CEO of NVIDIA talking about that you don't need to exclusively learn programming everything. But I always been like trained in a such a way that it starts with data structures and algorithm first, where you need to understand what is DSA, then choose a programming language, and then learn about the technology. Coming back to the question, so how I see it as a progressing way ahead is it's always going to be an emerging technology. And there are new things which is going to come up. So as you can see right now, we have AI assistants, chat GPT, everything with us right now. But it's not going to stop here. It's going to evolve. So for people who are tech enthusiasts or people who are just going to enter this field, we're just going to cope up with everything because things are going to get or evolve very rapidly. But the thing is, you need to get updated as well. It's not going to be like, okay, I learned Tableau today and just going to be settling down on Tableau. No, Tableau is one of the aspects. So talking about AI, it's a very broad term. It does not specifically talk about just being an AI or, it can be a business analyst, it can be data scientist, it can be data analyst. So there are different roles which come in. How do I see it progressing ahead is, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to make your task very easier. So, for example, you don't have a knowledge about X and you don't have the knowledge about Y. Right now, the domain, as you can see, like just type or search data analyst on LinkedIn, and it's getting more, towards the domain. So just it can be like a sales data analyst or it can be a healthcare data analyst. So for the ones so if you have a basic understanding of what the algorithms are and what machine learning is, what deep learning is, you just got to be cope up with how it's going to evolve, and you need to be updated with how it is. And for those who are just new to this field, it's just more about practicing of how to do this. There are many open resources such as Kaggle, where you get the data source, where you get a lot of data sets, there are a lot of competition. You just gotta, there are a lot of there's OpenCV as well. I think you can go there and train your models there as well. So there are a lot of things which are getting updated and which are getting evolved. For those who are getting new to this, it's about practicing. For those who are already in this field, it's about you getting updated each and every day or trying to learn with or cope up with the technology that is there.
You are all believing something that's not even real, and you're just waiting for little Dr. Sharon to show up here and tell you what you want to hear.
So I'm trying to
look to a professional. This is a way to fulfill.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Austin. So how does AI contribute to the automation and the future of work? Now that we talked about how AI is going to affect us. So Austin, I would wish you to answer this question. How does AI contribute to the automation? We've just talked about models, and we want to see how can this be implemented in a way that we want to see AI affecting automation and the future of work. Somebody mentioned that AI is not coming after a job. I always tell people no one should be fearing about AI coming after your job. Someone will if you stop learning. So learn and no one will take your job. Besides, there's so many like prompt engineering coming up, it's creating. I remember doing some research according to World Economic Forum. About 80,000 jobs will be lost the next 2 years, but about 95 jobs will be created. So the question is, are you going to be among those who are going to lose the jobs, we're going to be among those who are going to gain the jobs. Austin, to you.
I think it's without a doubt, we have seen Devin, the first software engineer who is automated and is fully run by AI. So the future of work has to evolve. Future of work means automation, 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 automation. So we remember the information age, the computers came, but it's coming to a point where automation will be the new thing. So right now, it's moving at a very fast pace, and it's easier. If you're trying to start up a company, right now you don't even need to get any infrastructure. You just need to have a laptop and have a good account and buy your own infrastructure in the cloud. Do automation. You don't need to hire a graphic designer. You can create a poster by yourself. You don't need to hire whoever. You don't need to, especially for those who are beginning or starting up. So the future of work is automation, and as you've rightly said, the people who will be most affected are those who don't embrace AI. It's not about changing. There are some jobs, we still need doctors. Doctors are very important. We still need teachers. We need a lot of teachers. Remember, for example, from where we sit here in Kenya, for example, we still have a lot of problems to solve. Automation can help us. We need to put the right skills to the right people to automate. ChatGPT is a good example. Majority of the data you see in ChatGPT was done by our young Kenyans here. The one was collecting data. So the one who was collecting data and feeding it to and you see that model is because of young people who are working on it and getting paid for it. So the future of work is automation. It will replace anyone who is not embracing. Things will become easier to do, but skills will also be needed. We need a lot of people who are skilled. So how can we create this capacity? Sevenett already is doing a good job. Capacity is what we need to build. Build capacity, teach, train, so that the workforce that is coming in needs to have, will find that they already have the skills. I remember some time back growing up, when you find somebody who had done any computer course, even a typing course, they were like the village hero because no one had it. So you can imagine, nowadays, knowing how to use a computer is a minimum. So anyone who is not embraced it will suffer, but the future of work is automation. Some jobs, sadly, will be lost. Some jobs will have to evolve, but only for those who are not embracing it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Gabriel. I think I hope you're buffing. Your internet, I think, has a challenge, but hopefully we'll be able to put through this process till the end. Now, the question I have for you is that what are the misconceptions or myths about AI that you or anyone encounters, and how would you want to address them?
Okay. I think one of the greatest, and this is the common fear among the many people, is about AI is coming to replace, he's going to lose job. So in as much as AI is here to automate certain tasks, it is designed, of course, to augment human capabilities rather than replace them entirely. So you'll find that humans have still the ability, of course, to oversight and, of course, provide what we call information. And of course, intellectual capacity comes to emotions. I mean, others say that when it comes to AI, we have not come to the level of where we can be able to train it in terms of feelings and all that. So you'll find that depending on the data that it has been trained on, because AI is just a matter of it replicates or it performs in accordance to the data that it has been trained on. You'll find that if the data was wrong, of course, there will be bias as well. So you'll find that it cannot be able to replace human entirely unless we as humans fail to, of course, advance our intellectual capacity, our intelligence as well, because the AI is just coming to make our work easier. The other misconception that we have is that AI is all-knowing and infallible at some point. You'll find that AI system, like just I have said, that it is as good as the data that it has been trained on, or let's say the algorithm that was used. So you'll find that these models, they exhibit what we call errors, and sometimes they have what we call limitations. So now they require what we call continuous monitoring and evaluation, and of course, refinement as well. The other thing that I've just come to realize the other day is that people think that AI is
I assume it's the same reason.
Yeah, proceed.
for big companies. So
Marshall, I think your mic or your internet has a challenge. Maybe I'll come back to you, but I want to go to Shaban. Yeah, Shaban. So Marshall just talked about algorithm. So I want you to explain what algorithm is, and as you do that, I need you to answer, how do AI systems learn and adopt over time? And what roles does data play in that process?
I would define algorithm as something as simple as it's like steps to follow, right? So how do we generally train the data? So for example, data might be in any form. It might be in a CSV form, or it might be in a JSON file, or it might be in an XLS file as well, right? So I would call algorithm as something which follows an instructions. So what generally happens is when you start training a model, what generally you do is take the data. Okay. So computer is something which can understand ones and zeros, right? So you need to pre-process the data and also, try to make it clean and try to do. There are a lot of steps involved. Basically, a life cycle of a data scientist goes from understanding the business requirement, then getting the data, then cleaning it, and then transform it. So just for an example, consider that we have one line which separates yes and no, right? So when you generally train a data, what happens is this line, which say for an imaginary line that we have, it says no and yes as well. So when you train on the data, it's just for an example, consider there might be yes on this point as well and no on this point as well. So when you train the data or train an algorithm with the data, it's going to get more fine-tuned and it's going to get more precise of what the data has been given to. So just for example, that we have 10 points, or say there might be a case where there's a algorithm which is called as K nearest neighbors, which is called as KNN. So what it generally does, just for an example, consider that I have a point here and there are 10 yeses, which is near to the point, right? So what it's going to do, it's going to see what is around it. So just for example, if we feed them and say, okay, what it's at this point, or it's just an example, just consider that, okay, if it's an algorithm is trying to understand, okay, what is the point or what is the majority which is around. So if, for example, if this airport is somewhere around yes, so it's going to vote on yes because the nearest neighbor or the nearest points which it has is going to be yes. So says this, for example, there are 7 yeses and 3 no's which have been there. So it's going to take majority of votes. It's going to be yeah, there are 7 yes. So yeah, the point that I have been training on, or the point or the question that I want, it's going to be yes. So it's a very intuitive method, and it's a very more of a calculus and more of mathematical calculations which gets involved. So it generally starts with taking the data, training the data, making it more fine to the business requirement or to the question that you have. Again, there is more process involved in it. I called it as fine tuning. So there are different bases of fine tuning it, and it can be depending on your business requirement. So what do I mean by fine tuning is something which is just take an example that we have ChatGPT nowadays, right? What are other tech giants doing it? It's not easy for a human being to just open a tech center and or a data center and train the models, right? So what do? They sell their algorithms and they make it more fine tuned. So what do I mean by fine tuning is that it goes down to a specific task. So for example, if you tell your algorithm to just work on images or make the images more refined, so it's going to get more fine tuned towards it because it has been trained on very large data, but you can fine tune it. So that's what the thing is. It generally algorithms is steps of calculations. Fine tuning is something which you can be more specific to it. Third is deploying it and giving the answer. So we have a very good example of this, as which is called as Google Gemini as well and ChatGPT as well. So when you ask the question, what is going to do? It's going to answer on the model or on the data which has been trained on.
Thank you so much, Austin. So there's ethical consideration around AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, and those other models. So the question is, what is the ethical consideration that you should keep in mind during the time of either developing or deploying of these systems?
Now, it goes back to the jurisdictions where some of these companies are. Now, depending on the law where you are right now, I think it's today, we had a law passed on the cyber crimes, something in Kenya. So law is very important, and that's something any developer, any user should be very careful about. So most companies have this thing of indemnity, and before you start using their product, they always tell you to read the terms and conditions. So they always try to protect themselves in the case of something would happen. AI, like for example, ChatGPT has so many disclaimers that it could be inaccurate, something could happen. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with these companies. If AI, if somebody asks something about work, and that's a bit, okay, we call it far-fetched, but if it gets to a point where we are now using AI for work, now it goes back to the country that instigates this, but that's on another scale. But in the real life and real world use, the issue is always going to be that AI is going to be used for good. We say AI for good. There's the term always called AI for good. Now, what happens when AI has done a bad thing? So how do we come back from it? That's why we're saying we still need the human beings. What are the guardrails? So we always need to ensure that as much as we want automation, we want things to be done fast for us. How do we safeguard ourselves from it? So at the end of the day, the companies are still very much responsible, and the users, depending on the use, it's usually contextual. There's no one way of looking at it, because we had a case of driverless cars in London, and somewhere even the driverless cars killed someone, and that's how that ended. But we have seen other instances of these driverless cars working perfectly. So that's why if you use cruise control in any normal vehicle, there's a law. Even if you remove your hands from the steering wheel, at some point it will tell you, it will beep and tell you, please wake up. Or it might even stop because there's still an error. So you can leave, for example, this is a driverless car using AI, you leave your hands off the steering wheel, and after a few minutes, it blinks and tells you need to be, it assumes you're asleep, or it assumes something is wrong, or it stops because it knows that it's programmed to know, and there's a chance it can fail. So we need to have systems, and the systems in AI like a fail-safe that always ensures that it protects the human life. Even collision systems that are using AI, the moment it sees anything in front of it, it assumes it's a human being, it stops. So these are some of the safeguards that these companies are always having and should ensure that they have, because human lives are really, that they should be safeguarded, and it's very important to safeguard the human life. So in a nutshell, we have laws protecting the human being around AI, and AI should only be used for good. And the companies of the country that use it for other things should be held solely responsible if AI does harm to people there.
Thank you. Earlier today, I was reading something about a non-peer-reviewed document about a research done to show that people driving cars that are AI powered, like Tesla, they tend to be more active than those who are not driving such cars. So a lot of things are changing in the industry. AI is, disrupting almost everything. That brings me to a question for Macharia. We've been talking about AI, but there's a term. By the way, you can also check the chat. There's some information that has been shared in the chat. So Macharia, there's people talk about AI, and people also have known about machine learning. What is the difference? Would you explain what AI, how different AI is from machine learning? And can you just list or mention some of the types of machine learning algorithms?
Okay. So if I can be able to differentiate between AI and machine learning, like the way I said, AI, it is the simulation of human intelligence by use of machines. But now when it comes to components now of AI, that's now include techniques like machine learning, whereby now you train a machine using data to make decision. In this case, it can help you to automate tasks. So now machine learning is a technique under the concept of artificial intelligence. And not only machine learning, of course, we have the natural language processing, the NLP, and of course, I had mentioned about what we call robotic as well. So now, AI, it is the housing, it is the shell that encompasses these other techniques that you're talking about. So it helps, maybe, for example, it comes to machine learning, we are training this model on a specific task, for example, facial recognition. So we'll have a model under machine learning that will be able to help us recognize images, maybe through use of cameras and other platforms. And when compare the two, you'll find that machine learning is a tailored model. It is a tailored model. So you can be able to customize it into various problems that you want to solve in a particular situation. So now in this case, it will leverage on the data that is being fed. So if you feed a machine learning model with a biased data, of course, you expect to have biased analysis or prediction in this case, and so forth. So the difference between the two is that for the AI, this is the holistic approach that we are talking about, which include, of course, the robotic, the what we call the natural language processing, and all those kind of algorithm that you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. There's a question that has been asked, and then Shabam, you may want to answer those questions. But the question is about, can these platforms you talk about, ChatGPT, Gemini, and many other things, can they collaborate so that somebody can get data from another platform? Okay. And then so that also, I want to ask a question as from what Gabriel just said. The question is, how does machine learning differ from traditional programming?
Okay. So coming to the question that has been asked on chat, can this platform collaborate in a way that maybe ChatGPT may obtain data from Bing to answer a new question? I think ChatGPT is already trained on that data. They have not released it on how it was being trained or what is the data exactly that has been gathered. But the information that I have is like it has almost, as I mentioned earlier, it has almost been trained on each and every data that is there on the internet. And they're just going to be running out of fuel in just like next 2 few years because they're not going to have it there ahead. And talking about like how would I differentiate machine learning is you can train a machine learning model on a specific task, right? Whereas if you see AI, it's generally not trained on a specific task. So let me be more precise to it, or I'll give you a simple example. Just for an example, again coming back to the question, again coming back to the same topic, if I can train a machine learning model to make a decision of yes or no according to a specific data which has been given, so machine learning will predict it on that. If you will give it something heuristic or it will give you something which is not there in it, it's going to hallucinate in which ways. And talking about AI, so this large language models have been trained on the data where it can answer a lot of questions. Like it can answer anything nowadays. If you can just go and just type anything on ChatGPT, it will come up and give you an answer. So I differentiate machine learning and AI in such a way that machine learning has been used for a specific task, and AI is more open for because it's been trained on more big data. So it can answer like not a specific question, but anything related, or you can ask anything, and it's gonna answer you, give you the answer.
Thank you. Austin, there's been a question of fairness and bias when it comes to AI. So the question is, can AI handle that kind of biasness and unfairness? And what are the measures that can be taken to make sure that this happens?
Yeah, just to also add something, I think what has been mentioned there. I'm talking back to the previous question, sorry. AI and machine learning are different because machine learning is a subset of AI.
Yeah.
You're getting? So machine learning is a subset of AI. So AI is like the umbrella, machine learning is under part of AI. Now, issues to do with race or bias or whatever, because that's an issue that's coming up with the AI. There was interest the other day. There was something really interesting. And disclaimer: this is just something I saw on the net. AI was told to draw a picture of how hell would look like, and the image was very interesting. So in the image, it only drew people from a Caucasian nature, so which drew interesting conversations. So how do we program it? So it comes down to the people who program it. So we need diversity always in how we think. Some of us, where we were born, we think in mother tongue, then we translate to English. So that's the challenge. So always when you're developing this thing, remember when you're writing programs, there's something, when you write a program, if you're a programmer, you know that every programmer has a handwriting. So our context of how we were brought up, how we see world, our worldview, it's very important when you're developing AI. So diversity is really important. So initially, big tech, you'd see they always do a diversity hire to make sure that they fit when they ask, do you hire people from diverse races? But what about their worldviews? So this is something that's really important. So these big tech companies should heavily invest in developing AI and contextualizing it. So it might work well in Seattle, Washington, for example, but in my village in Migori, somewhere in deep down, will it work? Do they understand it? So contextualizing is really important. Issues with race and bias. I'm a researcher and I can tell you, I'll not name the research house for obvious reasons, but we can submit a paper for review, for peer review, but because of my surname, it takes a while for it, months, years. Say I'm James White, it's in a month, and the reviewers come back, it's the same paper. So we still have a lot of challenges because we are now using AI to do reviews of papers, and we still have that issue. We are being told when it comes from our region, this topic has been over-researched. The same thing being done by my colleague from another university who happens to be Caucasian. It's getting it easy. So we still have that challenge. It's still very rampant. And you can even see it with the systems that are being developed in some of these vehicles. Why can't you just give it a voice that I can understand? Because some of us, that accent, issues to do with diction, I cannot understand that language. My grandmother will not understand that language. Why can we create AI that is local, understandable? We've seen the different kind of corpuses that we're developing. Right now, we're working with a team on the Luo corpus because we want to make sure that everyone, we have a Kiswahili corpus, we have a Bengali corpus, we have trying to ensure that AI is now, we call it AI is for good, but AI is representative. So that's the issue we are trying to develop and trying to make sure that AI is representative and does not just favor one kind of people.
Thank you. AI in Africa still remains untapped, and I think it's a domain that somebody need to explore. We are here. I think most of us share a community that we come from that continent, and so we have a responsibility to make sure that we also part and parcel of the training for these AIs and the models that are coming straight from, of course, even from India and many other countries. Question to you, Masharia. What are natural networks, and how do natural networks function? What makes them powerful AI tasks?
I think when it comes to neural networks, this is a function on what we call simulating the structure of a function, let's say of a human brain, whereby it is interconnected in terms of neurons. And we say that this consists, of course, of interconnected layers of nodes. You know, the way we have, we used to do what we call clustering. In this case, you have like a cluster of different nodes interconnected in terms of different layers and all that. So you find that these neurons each receives what we call the input signals processing, whereby they use what we call the activation function And of course, they're able to produce now signals that are passed, through those, subsequent layers. So what we say is that neural networks, learns by adjusting what we call strength of connections. In other terms, we call them weights, between the neurons, during training, during optimization, and of course, it is able to do what we call, adjust the strength of connections. Most important when it comes to neural network is the optimization in terms of minimizing the errors when it comes to predictions of outputs for the given input. What makes neural networks, to be more powerful when it comes to AI, more powerful AI task? It is the ability, we say it is the ability to learn complex patterns, and of course, representation from large amount of data. Yeah, it is able to understand and interpret large amounts of data in terms of gigabytes and so forth. And now this enables them to solve what we call a wide range of tasks, of course, such as image recognitions, natural language processing, and of course, predictive model. So the most common and big advantage of the neural networks, which leverages on the power of AI, it's the ability, of course, to make those complex patterns, and of course, be able to represent a huge amount of data when it comes to modeling.
Yeah, I think yeah, it should be neural networks. And so I remember watching a nice episode by Elon Musk talk about quantum AI, and it's the knowledge behind this is using neural network. They are based on neural networks, and this is very powerful. He talks about, I remember he launched it and he talked about that it would make you a billionaire in just a second. So there's so much interesting development coming up in this field, and the best you can do is be part of it. And so I have a question for you, Shabam. How does natural network processing (NLP) enable machines to understand and interact with human language?
Yeah. So NLP generally involves. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So NLP involves AI understanding and generating human language. So application might include it's like assistant languages, translation, or sentiment analysis. Basically, natural language processing, as I mentioned earlier, computers cannot understand what you type. So that's why there was Python, like there was like programming language which was developed because it can just understand either ones or zeros. So I would boil it down to a basic definition saying that natural language processing, it's just like giving an alphabet a digit. So for example, so we have all the letters. Say A might be having some digit to it, say 001, and B might be having 011. So natural language processing is generally converting the language or say the tokens that we have into numbers and give it to the algorithm so that it can understand. So it's basically more kind of a thing where you can see where you convert a language into numbers and train the algorithm to it. And then that algorithm again converts back the numbers to the language. And that's how the have you have you ever tried to use Google Translate or maybe that thing? So what it does is generally takes the word, it takes the tokens from it, or you can call it has been assigned with we also call it as one hot encoding as well. So it will give you it has some number or it has some encoding below it, which will get, and the machine learning model will learn it based on the input that has been given. It will give you an output. Just for an example, it has to convert, say, hello into a Spanish word, say, hola. So it will match the score accordingly, or you can just get the words which are more similar or more closer. So just for example, try to understand that if you say type hello in your chat or say Google Translate, what will go and search is the token or the score which has been given. So for example, in Spanish, it's called hola. So hola might have a more marks, or you can say a more score to it. So it will assign hola into this and it will convert it. So that's the basic definition, or you can say a basic thing which happens behind the scenario. And natural language processing, it has like a lot of it's a very broad spectrum right now nowadays, because uh, more of the models are being trained on natural language processing. It's a part of AI. It's a subset of AI and machine learning as well. But natural language processing itself is another domain where people make a lot of money, and it has been always a field which is evolving, because it's just not one language that human speaks. There are different languages, and nowadays, like, organizations are running behind to make AI models more specific to the language so that humans can also understand. So, for example, like, I speak Hindi. My mother tongue is Marathi. So for example, somebody at my village would not understand English. So companies are trying to train the data using natural language processing to make it more specific to the human understanding.
Thank you. Austin. So we have these terms, supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Would you please just take a minute to explain what they are?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Now, these are the terms that we use in AI. These are terms we use.
Okay. Yeah, proceed.
Okay. So these are terms we use in AI, and essentially the idea is always trying to look at the different meaning. Now, supervised, you're saying you take data, supervised learning. Now, you take data, you label it, then you're trying to adjust it based on different outcomes, based on different predictions. So it's like you're controlling it. You're controlling, you're supervising. So how is the computer giving new output based on data sets that you're trying to control, and actual outcomes and predictions? And supervised, here we talk about this model now, which is something really interesting. You program it in a way that it identifies patterns by itself. So we do, most of the time when you're trying to do dimensionality reduction, you're trying to do clustering, we use unsupervised learning. The other one, you said deep learning on neural networks?
I said unsupervised, supervised, and reinforcement learning.
Now, reinforcement, the idea is in AI, we have this idea of using agents. We use agents. Now, these agents in AI, we are telling them in reinforcement learning, how do we achieve this goal? So if you do this goal and you finish it and you achieve it, we give you a reward. If you don't do this, we give it a punishment. So in reinforcement learning, we have something called rewards and punishment. So reinforcement learning here is mostly trying to make an agent perform a specific action in a different environment, and it achieves some goals. And the one we said in supervised, you're trying to adjust data based on the model, based on data that you're giving it, and changing predictions and the outcomes. And supervised, you now leave it for the model to identify the patterns by itself. So those are some of the terms we try to use when we're talking about some of these aspects of AI.
Thank you. And of course, you also use the agent as another term. Probably you may want to explain that as you do. I have a question in the chat, somebody asking, what's about
I would like to answer that question as well.
Oh, in the chat. So, Austin, you answer the question. Let me explain just a second because we're running out of time. What's an agent? And then Shabam would answer the question in the chat.
Okay, so an agent, in my basic understanding, is like the simple basic unit of the unit of action in AI. We will not say a human being. We use the word agent because anything that can make an action, we use the simple term like an agent. So anything that can create or make some sort of action when you're trying to deal with, especially machine learning, we call it an agent. That's simple.
Okay, thank you. Shabam?
Yeah, so I think Gabriel answered the question where he is like very right. I'll make it more simpler for you. So bias and variance are two factors that affect how well a machine learning model will perform. So bias is like having a simple view of the world. So if a model has high bias, So it says like, I am not going to learn much from the data, in simple words. It's too basic and may miss important patterns. This is called underfitting in basically that's term. And variance is something which is being like too sensitive to the data. You are learning too much from the data. If a model has a high variance, it says I'm going to learn too much from the specific data, even if it is noisy. This is called overfitting. So finding a good balance between bias and a variance means finding a model that is just right, not too simple, like not too high bias, and not too complex, which is like not high variance as well. Here's how to do it. It's like I'm not going to go much technical about it. We have something which is called as cross validation, where you test your model on different parts of the data to see how well it performs. There is regularization, which like puts some rule place to keep your model from getting too complicated. There is something which is called as feature engineering as well, which is like choosing the right information from your data to train your model. And there is which is something which is called as ensemble method as well. So combine different models to best of the both worlds, simplicity and complexity. So by understanding this concept, using these techniques, you can build a machine learning model that will work really well for the real world problems.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this first episode of Sevenett AI podcast. We hope to see you the next episode. We are going to do this more regularly. We want to spark a conversation. You want a strike conversation. We want motivate everyone to start talk about AI. We're having our training going on. If you're interested, visit our website. They have shared in the chat our website. This video or this podcast will be available online. We are streaming it live on Facebook. Just look at Sevenett on Facebook. Otherwise, we are going to post this on the YouTube. It'll be available as soon as we are done with this. Thank you so much, our guest, Gabriel, Shaban, and Osid for sharing that wonderful episode with us. Talk about the concept of the basics and the features of AI. In the next episode, we are looking at quantum AI. We are looking for many other topics that we're going to discuss. Looking forward to meeting you again. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Good night. Bye.